Welcome, huge movie fanatic Nate, stopping on by. This time I'm coming your way to review the motion picture, which I think was finished in 2023 but didn't come out until this year. Is that correct? Coming at you to review the film by the name of Hell of a Summer. So this movie I didn't know anything about or didn't know it existed until the guy I started this movie review channel with by the name of first name of Matt. He actually sent me on over a text with a picture of a poster of it, and maybe he snapped it at the movie theater he works at. But he's like, he said, well, thought this might be up your alley or something along those lines. I'm paraphrasing him, of course, knowing I'm a huge fan of summer camp horror movies and summer camp comedies. I don't know if he knows I'm a fan of summer camp comedies, but I'm just a fan of a huge fan of summer camp slasher movies and horror movies. My favorite film franchise of all time is Friday the 13th. You know, Friday the 13th, the original film from 1980, among my favorite films of all time. So he was like, this is right up Nate's alley. I'll let him know about it. And it was actually very nice of him to do that, because we don't talk much on text or anything. And it was very nice of him to do that. So I checked out the trailer at the time, and I'm kind of like, yeah, you know, this movie is written and directed by, I don't know who this other kid is, but the one kid, of course, from, you know, one of the kids from Stranger Things and the most recent couple Ghostbuster movies, the Flynn Hardwolf or whatever the hell his name is. He's a co-writer, co-director of this. And honestly, after Matt sent the text and I checked out the trailer, I'm like, yeah, I mean, it doesn't look amazing. Cut to, I don't know when the hell I would have gotten that text, if it would have been, I don't know when the hell it would have been, but cut to, it's cut to like, was it June now? I think in this video, you ain't seen this video until like late July or early August or something, because that's the way it works around here. That's how I can publish a video every 3 days, but I kind of I'm backlogged that far back or whatever, but cut to, it was like late June or whatever. On as you guys may know by this time, actually this year, spring and summer, I've kind of gotten into like iTunes / Apple movie and TV show purchases and stuff. And I was actually, you know, they had a sale on this particular movie, dropped down to $5. I'm like, you know what? This has got to be worth $5 for a, you know, frickin' iTunes / Apple TV movie purchase, you know. So I'm just gonna go for it, just buy it on iTunes / Apple TV for $5. And I've seen it twice, and so now I'm gonna review it. So I think I was, you know, when I first saw it, you know, it's what's so funny is I kind of watched, the first time I watched it really half-assedly. Like, I had things going on and stuff, but I wanted to see it, so I watched it in parts on a tablet. It was really I just wanted to see it as soon as possible, and I couldn't watch the whole thing at the time. So I just like watched a bit here on a tablet, bit there on the tablet, bit more. I think I did it in like 4 or 5 parts, really half-ass. But I just wanted to see it, and that was the only way I could see it as soon as I did, was to do it that way in bits and pieces. But last night I sat down in front of the TV and watched it from beginning to end all the way through. So I've seen it properly now. And you know, the trailer, I don't know if I've talked about too much of how I thought about the trailer. The trailer didn't look that amazing. It looked like it was just trying to be funny and you know, la-di-da and stuff we've seen before and stuff. So the trailer didn't really make me want to see it. I thought, well, this probably ain't much. But when I watched the movie, I will say, now it should be said that this movie is first and foremost and pretty much only, you know, more or less only a comedy. Don't expect like, you know, horrific moments, or, you know, if you're a seasoned horror film fan, don't expect horrific moments or even any kind of decent necessarily kills. Or it's first and foremost a comedy, and just it's almost like you can almost look at it. When I was watching it last night for the second time, I was like, yeah, this reminds me a lot of, you know, Student Bodies. Maybe not going that goofy, but it's like a toned down version of Student Bodies. So it's more or less a comedy, you know, that's just going through the motions of a summer camp slasher horror film. And the premise is basically, you know, it's basically like the first Friday the 13th from 1980, where the counselors are all gathering together at this camp to get ready for the campers to arrive or whatever. Maybe counselor orientation or whatever, and you've got the main kind of guy for the first, I don't know what, 2/3 of the movie is this goofy guy who kind of reminds you of a young, how do you pronounce his name? Did he change his first name from the 80s? Wasn't he Leaf, and then they changed to Joaquin Phoenix or whatever? But he reminds you, he could be a carbon copy. He reminds you a lot of, like, his appearance and his mannerisms and even his voice, and almost like a clone of Joaquin Phoenix. This guy is the main character, I guess, you'd spend the most of the movie with, or at least the most of the first 2/3 or whatever. And that guy, I've talked about this in many videos in the past. Humor is a very, very interesting genre or an idea or whatever, because there's so many different versions of humor. There can be the give me a break kind of humor. There can be the Chris Farley, which is, in my opinion, Chris Farley is the give me a break kind of humor. And I'm not a big Chris Farley fan or that kind of humor. I can't list up all the kind of different humors there are. There's from like Chris Farley, what I've done before is like Chris Farley to just British deadpan dry humor. I'm more of the dry humor variety kind of guy. And all the kinds of humor in between, whatever. And I did find, for the most part, like the humor in this movie to be more or less humorous. It's not stuff that you go ha 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 and laugh out loud to, but it's kind of just like I don't know what. I guess, well, I mean, being written and co-written and co-directed by, I don't know how old they were at the time they did it, late teens, early 20s. The Hard Wolf guy and the other guy. I don't know what the hell the other guy has even done in the past or anything. Obviously it has that late teens, early 20s feel, because those are the authors of this movie. So it's got a youthful, like, maybe charm to the the comedy, a youthful whatever, naivete to the comedy, virginal quality to the comedy, whatever. But the first whatever half of this movie just follows the exploits mainly of this guy who's like 24 years old, been going to this camp, which I forgot the name of, Needle Pine or whatever the hell, that's not the name, but this camp for the past 8 years as presumably, I don't know if I don't think he was a counselor for all 8 years. We can only assume he was a camper and then became counselor, whatever. And his mom drops him off, and she's not too keen at the 24-year-old, being like a kid paying a measly $100 a week to be this, this camp counselor. But I'm kind of on the side of this guy. Like, if it's life's short, and you don't know how short it is, if you enjoy something and it's something as admirable and beautiful as being in a beautiful environment like that during the summer, and you're not interested in it for perverted reasons, and it's like a wholesome, real reason, then more power to them. Do what you want or whatever. And everyone kind of regards this character as, kind of the running joke at the beginning of the movie as just this kind of loser or whatever who, vowed he wasn't, because of whatever happened the previous summer, he was cried and, vowed to, never come back or whatever. Everyone's surprised that he's back. Kind of reminds me of, I went to this private school from like halfway through, well, that'll tell you what, that sounds good. Halfway through second grade, what the hell was it, 6th grade, I went to this private school, and there was this, was it from 4th to 5th? It might have been 4th to 5th, either that or 5th to 6th. Like, I was a horrible student because, it's very common for smart people to be horrible in school. And I was a horrible student, and a lot of the classmates knew it. It was one of those schools where, the whole day was one class of kids. So you knew each other too well. And a lot of kids knew I was a horrible student. And I remember the first day of, it was either 5th grade or 6th grade. 6th grade was the last year I was at the private school. Some kid was like, "Oh, I didn't expect you to be, had progressed to the next grade." And I'm like, "Oh, nice to see you too." That wasn't what I was thinking in my head, but that reminded, that bit in the movie about, everyone being surprised that this 24-year-old counselor guy is back, reminded me of that. Like, God, that happened to me. And it's so funny how, maybe not funny, maybe tragic, how the way people actually treat this guy at the beginning of the movie is, I needed a trigger warning for should have had a trigger warning because it triggered some, maybe not the most pleasant memories from my youth. God damn it, I'm so glad I'm out of school. I really wish I would have dropped out. I think I talked about that in the last video. The Waxwork Records, really, CD purchases. I really wish I would have dropped out of school and not finished because it didn't do me any good and I just wasted my time. But anyway, Jesus, I'm going to this whole stuff is because of like allergies. Like my eyes are watering because of pollen or whatever. But anyway, as you can see, this movie was very, very triggering for this poor movie viewer. But anyway, once you get, so the humor found there, in that kind of, awkward stuff with this 24-year-old counselor guy and stuff was kind of interesting. And the whole movie basically is just this day and night, kind of 24, very much like the first Friday the 13th, kind of 24-hour period. Well, maybe not that much, but maybe 20-hour period or 18-hour period of, from the day into the night and into the early dawn of the next morning or whatever. And sometime throughout the course of that time, the two adult owners, a man and a woman of the camp, are supposed to show up, but alas, they have been already killed, so they never show up. And then this guy's like, maybe it's a test to see if I can do this by myself and this and that and stuff. So the first half of the movie is just like hijinks. Well, there's two kills at the beginning of the movie, and incidentally, one of them is probably the best kill in the whole movie. If you're looking to if you're hoping for like entertaining kills in this movie, look elsewhere, because it's mostly like not entertaining kills. I think most of the stuff is off-screen kills, whatever, and the stuff that happens on camera isn't that amazing. I looked this up. I was very, very flabbergasted after watching this to see that the budget of this, or the estimated budget, is somewhere around $2 million. I'm like, what? How? Are you fucking kidding me? What was spent? What $2 million could have possibly been spent on this movie? It's all like this one simple location. There's no decent visual or practical effects that I can see, other than having a tube behind an axe just sitting on top of some guy's head, draining some blood out for a while, and then they just take it off. Like, it's not even in, and there's no gash or nothing, and it's like, what the fuck? Is this a money laundering movie? Like, what was $2 million even spent on? Deer Camp 86 was made purportedly for like $100,000. And that movie, was just as good or maybe a little better than this movie. So it's like $2 million? What did the Flynn Hardwolf just take like, 3/4 of that for himself and spend $500,000 on the movie? Like, I don't understand where $2 million went in making this movie. Holy crap. But anyway, the movie is just this and that and this and that. And I've reviewed a decent amount of these in the past years. There was this one, I can't remember the title. Was it The Final Summer? It's got actually a really cool poster, but the movie sucked. And it was one of those movies, and I'm thrilled to actually announce that there isn't one drone shot in this movie. That was one of my big pet peeves of like, was it Final Summer? I wish I could remember the title, but it's another summer camp slasher movie, which tried to be more of a horror movie, I think. And it just had like 6 or 7 or 20 frickin' just drone shots of the top of the trees just for no fucking reason. Just because you can do it doesn't, whoa, look at that. Doesn't mean you have to do a drone shot. So we're gonna get dark and light. It's that time of year, we're gonna get dark and light around here. So please bear with us. But I guess that's more or less the movie. Like halfway through, they, the stuff, like I say, not a big body count. Halfway through, they start finding bodies. And one thing I will say, and then maybe the first half is fun, get to know everyone. The first half is my favorite half, and after they find the bodies, it's not. I don't think it's as good. But I mean, it's like funny all along or whatever. But it's more annoying after they find the bodies and stuff. But one thing the thing I liked the least about this movie was, like, I'm not going to spoil it because I don't know what's the point. Maybe you want to see it, but the antagonist, is antagonist the word for the people that are antagonizing the situation? Probably. The reveal of the antagonist was just kind of annoying. Like, you know, we've seen it before. Obviously, it's one thing I don't really like about these movies is they all feel like they gotta, you know, because of Scream, they all feel like they have to reveal the killer and do all this big reveal thing and all this and that and have a motive and stuff. Like, it's just it'd be nice if some of these movies, you know, just ditched that and didn't feel like they have to do that and just leave it more ambiguous or whatever. But you know, they all feel like they got to do that. So one thing I will say is, although it's like, I guess, you know, humorous throughout, like my favorite portion of the movie ironically is the first half, before, when things are just normal, before it becomes like a, oh, there's a killer and we're all panicking, like, you know, and stuff and whatever and there and that and stuff. So I guess more or less that'll be my review. You know, you know, competently, I think it was competently made here and there, and I was really surprised, you know, being written and directed by, you know, late teens, early 20-year-olds, that, you know, of course, you know, you never know if it's like, you know, if the you know, the director of photography's idea or whose idea it is, but there was some sequences where, you know, like a whole dialogue scene kind of played out in one shot, and it was like a tracking shot, you know, where that one guy and that girl are kind of walking back from the cabin, and this tracking shot, she goes around the tree, comes around the other side, and, you know, where the whole talking sequences are in just one shot, and that kind of stuff, which is so rare these days. And for a movie to be written and directed by two young people to be like that, I'm like, you know, that's really, like I say, we don't know whose idea it was, but it's really impressive to have like some of these scenes just, you know, kind of, you know, just taking place in a single shot kind of a thing, you know. So technically, you know, there's bits and pieces of greatness in this movie, and like some of the last shots of the lake and the sun coming up in the dawn, of the two characters having a romantic moment, like some of the kind of awe-inspiring, like those some of them shots of, you know, mainly the wide one of the dawn, and, you know, with the sun coming up from the other side of the lake, like, wow, what a beautiful way to end the movie. So on a technical aspect, like some of the technical, I guess, cinematic choices, I'm a big fan of just, you know, movie technique and shooting and cutting and all this and that and stuff. So that stuff isn't lost on me. I really appreciated some of the technical aspects of how the movie was made. And what's ironic is the whole movie isn't some kind of technical marvel. It's mostly just gobbledygook. But then there's bits and pieces like that sprinkled throughout. You know, like the funny bit about, like, right when the 24-year-old's mom drops him off and he's all giddy and she's not so keen on the situation, and she kind of pulls away, and just like the shot of his head, you know, the camera is kind of like the car backing up and just leaves him behind, kind of. So that kind of cinematic, like I say, we don't know if it's the Hard Wolf's idea, the other kid's idea, the cinematographer's idea, but regardless of whose idea it is to do some of them, like, kind of creative cinematic, you know, choices or ideas or, you know, things, you know, that is definitely not lost on me and very much appreciated by me. So that's one thing I can say in praise of this movie. And one also thing that I'll say is, on the tablet, the dark scenes were really dark, and you know, on the TV they were brighter. But God, maybe the dark night scenes are maybe a little too dark, possibly. But one thing I will say is the day stuff, you know, which is like permeates the first half or whatever. The movie, it really looks beautiful during the day. Like the movie, I like how it looks, and just the green cabins, and, you know, just, yeah, it looks really good. So that's another thing I'll say. But obviously you've got, you know, more or less, I mean, I guess you can't say necessarily annoying characters. There's one character that's kind of annoying, but somehow even his shtick is somehow funny. And yeah, I'd say for the most part, I'm on board with more or less the humor in this movie. There was one cringe moment where they kind of, that got the 24-year-old and the chick go to the makeout point, and there was one cringe moment where the guy was just, you know what, that's just too much, but whatever, that's just my opinion. But I think for the most part, the comedy, you know, hit the mark. The horror aspects of this movie, I'm not on board with. It's not, you know, it's a comedy first and foremost. So to me, it goes through the horror movie paces or whatever, but it doesn't deliver in I don't know how much it was trying to deliver in that arena, but in my opinion doesn't really deliver in the horror movie aspect of it. But I can appreciate it for just being like a spoof kind of comedy movie. So my star rating for Hell of a Summer, I can go as high as 2 stars out of 4 stars for Hell of a Summer. I definitely don't regret digitally buying it for $5. I'm happy to support movies of this genre that go on to tackle the summer camp horror thing. And it's like, it's kind of like I wish I could remember the name of that other movie with them 10 bazillion frickin' drone shots of the top of the trees, but it might have been Final Summer. But after seeing movies like that and, potentially, I think this movie had enough charm where there's really no regret factor, but after seeing movies like this, it begs the question, how many of these are you going to keep seeing? You just keep seeing these when they come out? But the thing is, you gotta, because otherwise, if I'd given up after like Final Summer, which one might have been 2020, I don't know when I saw Final Summer, if that's even what's called, possibly 2023, but if I'd given up after that, I may not have ever seen In a Violent Nature, a movie that I hold in really high regard, and probably my favorite movie, or favorite horror movie of the 21st century. So, you gotta give, every time one of these comes out, even though it's most likely going to be like everything else that's already exists, there's a possibility, like in the case of In a Violent Nature, where you're going to get this just wow thing. And this movie wasn't, it definitely wasn't no In a Violent Nature, but it also wasn't Final Summer, if that's what it's called. It was somewhere in between, where I actually saw this twice. I can definitely see, watching this again, maybe show Beth. I can see Beth being annoyed by a lot of the stuff, so I don't know if I want to risk showing her. We'll see. You'll probably never know if I show her or not. But I guess that pretty much is probably way too long a review. If it is, my apologies. But I guess that'll be, pretty much do it for my review of Hell of a Summer. It could have been worse, but could have been better. But you don't really expect better these days. If you expect better these days, shame on whatever George Bush said. You fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice and never go around the block again. I don't know what George Bush said, but I guess that pretty much does it for this review. Hope you guys enjoyed. Thanks so much for watching. And as always, we'll catch you on the next video.